it's Kristie, creator of A Strong Soul Wellness,
and Paige, writer at Healing Spaces,
and you're watching
Real Talk. So this is a safe space that we are trying to create to get vulnerable. I totally butchered that. We are here to create a safe space to get real, vulnerable, and raw about all of the insecurities that lie beneath the surface. We are just two ordinary women, mothers, and it has been a season of utter chaos.
It has. And that just happens to be what we're talking about today.
Yes.
Chaos and overwhelm. So if you are enjoying this, please make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe,
all the things.
All the things. All the things you're supposed to do.
Welcome to the tornado, because that's pretty much what we feel like today.
Absolutely.
All around.
So, overwhelm, chaos, tornadoes. That's kind of how our week has been, I feel like. And
also the weather in Indiana. Like that also describes like what's going on externally, which is not great.
Well, it's funny you bring that, because I was literally having a conversation with my client this morning about, because like so many people are feeling this like, like down in the dumps. Like, you know, that
I feel like I just ran straight into a brick wall.
Yes. And I'm like, you know what? Me too. Like, and it, not that I want to blame the weather, because it's so, like, we can't control it. It's so unpredictable. But it is the weather's fault. Like, I am very connected to, if it is cloudy, I'm feeling cloudy. Yeah. And, like, with Indiana, we go from last week, 70, 80 degrees.
Yeah.
And then now it was snowing, like, a few minutes ago. And so, like, I'm just kind of pissed off, honestly.
Yeah, the weather, I looked out the window and I was like, is that snow? And Kristie's like, don't look at it. Just don't look at it.
No.
Don't make eye contact with it.
We'll summon more.
Because it's like a toddler. You don't want to make eye contact. When they're melting down.
Do not acknowledge it. That is so true.
Don't acknowledge it. Run away.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't even mention the word snow. But anyway, so if you are feeling that, like, sometimes it truly is the weather. And I feel like we go through seasons just like the weather. We have that, like, up and down. Our growth is just like the season. So if you're feeling, we're right there with you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to you. I know, we even this morning while we were getting ready for this, like, I text her on her way here, and I was like, I'm not putting on any makeup. I just can't. And she's like, well, I put on makeup, but I didn't do my hair. And I was like, well, I did my hair. So together we create one put together human.
Which is, like, that's just pretty typical. I feel like we somehow make just one person.
We just make one person.
It's all right. It's all right.
So, obviously, even, like, in our conversation today, everything feels a little chaotic. Everything feels a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
And so we were like, what topic could be more perfect than actually talking about the chaos that we deal with on a regular basis, especially during busy seasons. And when you have kids, like, you're kind of always in a busy season because they always need things. I mean, you know, who would have thought? You bring humans into the world, and then they need you to take care of them.
Constant.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time they need you to take care of them.
Yes.
And so, I want to start this conversation by saying we don't really have any answers. Like, we don't really have any answers to make that go away, to make that, you know, any easier necessarily, because it's life and it happens. Mm-hmm. But we have, I think, both come to a good place of finding tools that help to alleviate it just a little bit. And so we're going to share with you today some of those things, but then also kind of the repercussions and the fallout of when we slack on showing up for ourselves and doing those things, how that actually affects us, because it does affect us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my experience because it's literally just happened the last couple days. I have had a couple busy weeks, as we all have. Spring break kind of like threw off everybody's routine. And now we're still just like playing catch up.
Oh, yeah.
Then we had the holiday, we had Easter, and we both celebrated our birthdays in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, wow. We really have been busy. So it's like you're saying all this and my mind is like trying to catch up.
Yeah, and so we just have been nonstop. It's like push, push, push. And so this weekend I kind of really hit my wall. And with that, I went 2 days without doing my morning meditation and my morning meditation, prayer, and journaling.
Yeah.
And so even if I get to that later in the day, by yesterday morning, I had noticed such a huge difference in myself because I hadn't done it first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so it was like this big, huge tell to me that was like, okay, you might be able to not work out. You might be able to not read 10 pages of positive, reading in a day. But this thing that you do every morning, you have to do this because I felt like a ticking time bomb. Every time I heard the word mom, I was like, I think steam is going to blow out of my ears. And I don't want to show up like that for my kids. I don't want to show up like that for myself. So being able to recognize that was super important. And then being able to be like, okay, this can no longer be a negotiable thing. And even when it does happen, being able to give myself some grace and be like, okay, you know what to expect. You know why this is happening. Now you need to get grounded and get back to the core things that make you feel centered. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's so important for us to have that and to know what that is. And so if you don't have that, start taking an inventory of something that you can do or add to your day that makes you feel that, you feel that centered and grounded, and so that you can exist in the chaos without completely spiraling out of control. Because then when you do spiral, or when for me in my experience, then I go into this shame and this guilt.
Yes.
Because it's oh my gosh, why did you snap at her? Why did you do this? Why were you not, more kind and loving towards her? My kids specifically. Why didn't you call that person back, or at least let them know? You just shut out and shut off. And you don't want to guilt and shame yourself for just having the human experiences. And so if you can have that self-awareness.
I was going to say the self-awareness is really big.
Yeah. Have those practices that bring you back to that centered place. Mm-hmm. You just come out of it a lot more gracefully. And I don't know, give yourself the opportunity to kind of laugh about the chaos.
Yes, like we were doing before we started recording. It was just having some fun with it. But how you said, finding tools to come back to your center. And one of the things I talk about, this is kind of really what I do with my clients, is asking yourself, what can I do for my mind, body, and soul? What is going to make me feel best in this moment? And it can be really, really small things. It can simply be going outside. For me, going outside is a really big thing, being out in nature, getting some sunlight, can be just journaling. There's so many things. And I think in a world of self-care, we think it has to be really big. Yeah. I must need a spa day. We all do, but it's not realistic.
Yep.
Sometimes you're just going to have to free ride. You're going to just have to go outside, kind of shake up your body, get some of that energy out, the bad energy. And it can just be really little things.
Yeah. I love now, in the spring, especially, when it's not snowing and raining outside, being able to go outside and just drink a cup of coffee and sit in the sun. And I will listen and try to count how many different birds I can hear chirping. Yeah. Because it brings me into the present moment. And it brings me out of the mindless tasks running through my head. And it gives me this grounded task to do in the present moment in nature and keeps me from, I don't know, moving on to the next thing. It just like gives me a moment of stillness.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point, is what you just said, is being able to live in the present moment.
Yeah.
Finding something that you can concentrate on that's going to just bring your awareness to right in your moment, and avoiding your phone, avoiding social media, looking at your emails, your text messages, notifications for the 100th times. It really, truly, to be in nature, I feel like that's one of the biggest things for both you and I, and it's going to be different for everybody, but it really is such a great place to just come to the present, to like focus on your breathing and just be grateful for being able to be in that moment.
Yeah. And I also, like, you know, it's super easy to make up a whole list of excuses of like, oh, I don't have enough time. Oh, I don't have, you know, I can't wake up any earlier. Mm-hmm. I can't do this. I can't do that. I don't have time to give anything to myself. There's just too much going on. There's going to be some days where that is completely true. But most of the time, because I will like slide through those excuses myself, like obviously. But at the end of the day, if I can look at my phone and see that my screen time is well over an hour, you know, because normally the average is like 3 to 3.5.
Yeah.
But so like that tells me in itself, like, no, like you do have time. You're just not giving it to the things that are going to make you feel more grounded. You're giving yourself to these things that are just like mindless. Mindless.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true. Our phones are such a massive distraction, you know, in a world where we're so connected, it has created such a disconnect. And I think one of the things I like to challenge people to do is when you start looking for these tools for yourself, especially in the morning, I mean, having a morning routine, like you just said, doing your routine in the morning versus like in the middle of the day really makes such a difference. And what I really like to challenge, and it's a challenge for me, is to do that routine before you touch your phone.
Yes.
Before you look at a notification, before you check your email, your text messages, the weather, even the weather, or you scroll. Like, I know I used to just lay in bed and I would wake up by scrolling.
Yeah.
No. Like, try to, like, that is a huge challenge. Try to set it away for like the first hour of your morning.
Yeah. I turn my data off from like 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Because I get up at like, I don't know, usually anywhere from like 5:45 to 6:30.
Yeah.
So then I can't even actually, I mean, you can turn it off, but like you can turn that off, but it gives me like an extra step of resistance to be like, okay, no, this is not actually what you want to be doing first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And so in the last thing before you go to bed. And so that really helps too, to be able to like have that tool and not instantly jump into the world. Like you're like, okay, I'm not going to instantly jump into the world. Your week may be chaos. Your weekend may be jam-packed. But if you can give yourself a little bit of space to just breathe in the morning before you jump into that, you'll really thank yourself. Like it really makes a huge difference. And I agree with like exactly what you said, and the fact of like just being able to nurture your mind, body, and soul in a way that keeps you present and keeps you grounded, and even in the smallest of ways.
Yeah. Well, and like you just said, to breathe in the morning. That is what all of this is about. Like nurturing your mind, body, and soul is you breathing. And the example of the reason flight attendants tell the parents or the, older people to put your oxygen mask on before you help a child is because you're no good to anybody if you're not breathing.
Yeah.
And we go through life not breathing.
Yeah.
we really just were in like a survivor mode, a going through the motions, and we're not breathing. So taking that time in the morning to even just breathe, even if you're you don't have to meditate, you don't have to exercise, you don't have to read, you don't have to do any of these things. If you can just take a few minutes to concentrate on your breath, you will start your day. Like, I guarantee you will start your day better.
Yeah.
And starting your morning better just creates a better day. I mean, it just is like the beginning of your day, the way that it starts, it really speaks volume. Because it used to be, for me, I was never a morning person. I was always a night owl. And I know you were the same way too.
Same way.
Like you talking about, because I remember like maybe a year and a half ago, you asking me, I really want to be able to get up at 6:30. Like, what can I do? Mm-hmm. And us having that conversation, you know, and now it's just part of your day. But I used to be, I would sleep in or sleep late, like to the last second. And then I was a complete chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, like driving into work on 2 wheels. I was mad because the kids were slow. I was mad because I would forget something. It's like, well, of course.
Yeah.
When you start your day off like that, it's not going to go great. So having like a few minutes in the morning really changes the game. And I think my overwhelm lately, actually, like, so my kids are in sports and like traveling sports. So we're always on the go. One is in basketball, one is in gymnastics and doing track, and every single night of the week we have something going on. And then also on Saturdays. So there's always something. And the last 2 weeks there's been something. Saturday we had this weekend we had prom Saturday, state competition Sunday. So it's literally on the go constantly. And one night I like looked at Rudy and I'm like, I just hate our lives right now. Yeah. And it like makes me really sad to like that. I was in that pit of, I hadn't been doing my morning routine. I hadn't been doing the things I need to do. And I was like, I just hate our lives right now because I don't feel like we're living. I feel like we're just going through the motions. We're always on the go. You know, it's just chaos. Like I want to live in the moment with my kids, not just be Ubering them to different places. And so I had to just kind of take a little bit of time and come from a different perspective. But for me, what I have found, there's really 2 big things. And one of the biggest thing is I have to have alone time.
Yeah.
And it is, I used to feel like that made me weird or it made me selfish. Like I really had shame around, because I'm a mom. A mom is supposed to always want to be with her kids, or I'm married. I should always want to be with my husband. And it's not that I don't want that.
Yeah.
I can only recharge myself when I'm sitting in the quiet. And sometimes I don't do anything. Yeah. I could sit in like a dark room, not turn on the TV, not open my phone, not open a book, and just sit.
Yeah. And
I have like what I call my recharging station, and it's just a little couch cushion next to the window, and I just sit there.
Yeah.
And that's just like how I have to recharge. In the quiet. And I just, the way that I was feeling is because I wasn't starting my morning there. I mean, I didn't have any time. I was going to bed late because my husband and I, we want to spend time together. So it's late at night, binge watching Big Bang Theory, which is not spending time together. But it was like we were staying up late, you know, getting up early, and I was not doing my morning routine. I didn't have time to myself. And so I was just feeling this like just super tense. And my emotion is anger. That's typically what comes out first, is like the short temper and anger. And it's just like very intense. That fire, I guess.
That fireball.
That fire. And I was just feeling super, super intense. On top of that, for me, I also have to do some kind of like physical activity to get that fire out. And I hadn't been doing that either. Like from spring break, even now, I still am not back to like regularly working out. So if I like, you know, get mad this weekend or this week while we're together, I apologize. It's just beware. Just a little warning.
I'll slap you. Don't you worry.
We're leaving for Ohio to go watch a concert.
Yeah, so. We're literally recording this and leaving town. So it's been just crazy.
Yeah.
So what you said, like, I think it came full circle. That self-awareness, how you were describing that about yourself and your experience, that self-awareness is key.
Yeah.
Because before, think about like 5 years back, we would have had no idea really why we were spiraling.
Yeah.
And in that, we would have like
continued.
Realistically, like we would have just continued. We still would have been super shitty with the people around us. Super passive aggressive. And then probably, which is a conversation that I think that we'll get into eventually, but probably ended up choosing to have a night of drinking to decompress and relax.
Yeah.
And would have been off the rails and like spiraled even further because we would have felt like shit for days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like the hangover would have lasted for days. But like that was the way that we would decompress was like, okay, like let's have like, and it's not even like sitting down and like, oh, having a drink. It was like, we're going to decompress with, sorry, go off the rails. But you know, it was like that used to be the only tool we felt that we had.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And now
that was the only fun that we had.
And so now it's less about finding like the easy tool to numb with, which whether that's booze, whether that is binge watching TV shows until like 3 o'clock in the morning, because it wasn't just until, 10 or 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was be like, we were both insomniacs.
Oh yeah.
It was like 3 a.m.
Very unhealthy. Yeah.
And then, or your phone or like whatever it is, those vices are easy to lean into. And so I think that now it's really important to celebrate the fact that like we have attained enough self-awareness to be like, okay, look at all these tools that we've attained that are so much healthier for us than what we used to do.
Like,
but also like they give us a more productive result and they make us feel so much better.
Yeah. For the long term. Like like 5 years ago, that was a great way to put it. I mean, I struggled with grief, depression, anxiety, all these things, and I had zero tools. And so what I would do is when I would feel this way, then I would fall into like what I call just like a pit of self-sabotage, self-pity. And I'm talking like, it was just all the time. Like I was living life off like from the couch.
Yeah.
Like, my view of the world was I was too tired. I was too depressed. I didn't want to hang out with friends because I was too depressed. I just like I could not function. And it was because I wasn't healthy. I wasn't doing these things. Yeah. And people would look at me and assume I was healthy. And I think that was like the like crappiest part is like, no, I'm not happy or healthy. I'm literally depressed, sleeping on the couch, going to work, hating every minute of it, and just going through the motions. And like once I like came out of that, it was just like this like whole new world.
Yeah.
And it really took doing these tools, doing these really, really little things that we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
But it's just like super small things, doing them kind of consistently, trying to find what works for you. And I don't know, I just feel so, I just want people to know that there's a different life.
Yeah.
I think that's like it's just like that passion of like, you literally don't have to feel like you're just surviving.
Yeah.
Because, and we still go through that. Like I just said, like literally last week, I was like, I hate our life.
Like, what is happening?
But that moment that happened last week, that would have lasted months.
Yeah.
Would have lasted months. And then maybe I would have gotten a little motivated and maybe worked out for a couple weeks, but I'd still be eating like crap, drinking like crap, not doing any kind of meditation or devotion. And so it would only be like, just a little
ray of sunshine in like a big season of stormy clouds.
Yeah. And, so like I teach my clients these cornerstone habits, but it's really, really finding small tools that are right for you.
Yeah.
Because like our tools are different. Some are similar, but they're different. And it is just kind of experimenting with what is going to make you feel better, what nurtures your mind, body, and soul to make you feel empowered and feel good. Like we want you to wake up and feel good.
Yeah, because we have spent years of our life in survival mode. So we completely understand like what that feels like and how dark and isolating it is.
Yes. Yeah. Isolating, that's a good word.
Like it's just like to bring awareness to that, bring awareness to yourself, to know what your triggers are, to know what your tools are. Because again, like so many of our experiences are similar, they're also very unique in their own ways. Yeah. And, you saying that you recognize what your triggers are and like how you have that fire that comes out and that tension that builds. And, to piggyback on that, in my experience, I can get very overwhelmed. I can keep up with like a pretty busy like social schedule. Like I can keep up with that and not necessarily like be so dependent on that alone time. Because like that, like that's just how we're different.
Very different. Yeah.
But for me, it's like when I have like an actual physical mess surrounding me, like when I'm surrounded by like mess and clutter and all of that, which it sounds kind of silly, but a lot of people may resonate with this.
A lot of people do. Yeah.
I will literally, in the past, I would go completely batshit. Like, I would just completely lose my mind and be super short and crappy with the people around me. And whether it was, you know, my partner at the time, or whether it was my kids, or whether it was, you know, like, myself. Like, I would beat myself up probably the most and the worst.
That's a good thing to point out.
Yeah, and then, like, I would clean the whole house, or, like, clean up the area, like, the physical area around me, and I would feel such relief. So I would get overwhelmed in, like, almost like the physical clutter and the mess around me, and that would just bring up all of this just really, like, heavy, strong irritation.
Yeah.
And then I would feel terrible about the way that I reacted to people. Because, you know, for me, again, it's like the same as you. People would look and they would be like, oh, she's so fun. Oh, she's got it all together. Oh, she's great. You know, whatever. And yeah, on the outside and in social situations, or I could be funny, I could be loud, I can tell a good story, or whatever it is. Pour me a drink, like, let's, you know, go all night. But inside, I was just constantly, like, beating myself up. And nobody really realized. Like, sometimes when you're really good at putting up that mask in that front, nobody sees underneath that, like, you're really struggling. Or that you're really compensating for something inside that you don't feel good about. You may look like you have it all put together, but that chaos is not only, like, running your life, but it's ruining your internal landscape and the relationship with yourself. Yeah. And so being able to attain the self-awareness, to recognize it inside, to figure out what your triggers are, what very small tools you need to start climbing out of that, and then being able to be honest about it. Yeah. You know, like, being able, like, specifically this weekend. So one of our other, like, your best friends, like, she, for my birthday, was like, let's have a cookout. Like, let's get together. It's like, okay, that's fine. And when you messaged me and you were like, I can't come. Like, I'm just overwhelmed. I have A, B, C, and D going on. So many things. And my response to that was like, please do not feel sorry. Like, please do not feel bad. Rest. Yeah. Like, do what you have got to do. And so I bring it to that because it's also, like, self-awareness in the people you surround yourself by. Yeah. So when your life is chaos, or when you're in a season of chaos, or a day of chaos, or whatever it is, make sure that you are choosing and surrounding yourself with people who support that, who love you through that, and who do not make you feel guilty or like shit for it. Because sometimes, you know, there are people who will give you that guilt trip for not being able to show up. And I think that it's a real big sign of, like, the quality of your friendships, your relationships, when somebody can just, like, give you grace. Because I know that if it would have been vice versa, you would have done the same thing for me. Absolutely. And I'm much more introverted, and I think, you know, that might surprise people, like, from being online, but I do struggle in a group setting. It just, like, takes a lot out of me. And going through my week, all these other things that were taken from me, because I was not refilling my cup. Let's come back to that. At that point, I was not refilling my cup. But I also, when I texted Paige that, I knew that she would give me grace. And I knew that she wouldn't be like, oh, that sucks. Because even if you say, like, just something, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I was really hoping to see you tonight. Like, that can still kind of feel, I struggle with, like, feeling guilty. But I knew, had I gone out of guilt, I probably would have brought everybody else down a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? If you can feel, like, my tension. I know other people can feel my tension, and that's probably one of the reasons that I do try to be more reserved, because I know when you have so much fire, it does come off to other people. But I was like, if I go out of just feeling guilty, I'm going to probably bring it down a little bit. I don't want you worrying about how I'm feeling. It's your birthday. So it was nice
to have that relationship and to have that moment. I mean, it was unfortunate because it really it was happening because I wasn't refilling my cup. I mean, that's the bottom line. But also just having a support system that knows you and understands you, and that loves you through, you know, all the highs and lows is really important.
Yeah. And I think because we both had friendships that, and even at certain points in our lives, have also like been in that place to where we've taken that more personally.
Yeah.
From each other from other people, because we weren't living from like such a conscious place. Like we were just a lot more,
well, I think when we're unsure and we have such an internal struggle, we actually place more pressure and expectations on other people.
Yes.
Like we assume we assume that people are going to think the worst of us because we're thinking the worst of ourselves.
Yeah.
And whether that's true or not, that's just what we place that on other people. And so I think us having our individual, more like authentic journeys, working on ourselves and getting to know each other on a deeper level through our journeys. But yeah, I just think when we're so hard on ourselves, we actually twist it and put it onto other people.
Yeah. When you feel insecure inside, you know, so deeply insecure inside, you feel insecure about how people feel about you. Yeah. And so
it's such an assumption.
Yeah. And you create all of these stories behind it. And so I think it's just super important. It's also super important not only to surround yourself with people that support you and give you grace through the chaos, through the mess, through whatever it is, but also to show up in your life as that person. You know, like it starts with like, sometimes it starts with you being that friend first. Like, hey, I get you. I get what you're going through. Like, it is okay.
Yeah.
And so then you know, even if you're not receiving that from people that you love, if you can offer that to them first, and be honest and direct and clear about those things, then it kind of gives them permission to give that to you back.
Yeah, I love that. Being that example, kind of that model.
Yeah, and I think that's like a huge thing because it alleviates the pressure off of everybody in the situation, and creates less stories behind it.
Yeah.
It's super important to be really honest with people, and sometimes that can be hard because we want to make it seem like we've got it all together all the time.
Yeah.
We want to make it seem like we can do all of the things, all of the sports, all of the running, all of the cool stuff with our kids, all of the holidays, the fun baking, the over-the-top gifts, or whatever it is, and still look put together and still feel good and be positive. And it's just kind of like,
no, you
can't. No, no, let's not pretend like we can do all of the things all of the time.
No, you can't.
When it's more important to have a quality version of you show up to a lesser quantity of things, and being able to prioritize and be self-aware enough to know, bringing back to you this weekend and making that choice to be like, hey, like, I don't have this in me. You are choosing, like, if I give myself this opportunity to stay home and rest, I can show up with more quality for this thing that I have tomorrow, which was prom. Yeah. And then she ended up, like, I had my youngest daughter with me at work, and she's like, let me take her, let me take her with me to alleviate some of the pressure off of you working today. And
that's true.
If you had been up until 1 o'clock in the morning,
I wouldn't.
You probably wouldn't have been able to like do that for me.
No. Yeah, that's true. I would not have even had that like thought of being able to do that just because, when I'm not rested, when I'm not recharged, I can't function like properly. I mean, I don't show up, like you said, in that quality and authentic way. And so, I like that you brought that around because I hadn't even had that thought.
Yeah.
Because I did. I woke up Saturday feeling good, feeling fine. I mean, just feeling better, and was able to hang out with Chris for a little bit.
Yeah. And so, I think it's just important to be able to like recognize like the give and the take of relationships, and the way that like chaos can really take over, but also like when you have those grounded tools, the self-awareness, is so important to be able to like bring yourself back to center, even if it's just for a moment.
Yeah, because there's always going to be chaos. Like life is always going to throw curveballs. There's always going to be something.
Yeah.
And unless you've figured out what you need to do for yourself to show up best in the world and in those moments, it's going to be a really like big struggle. And even having those tools, it's still a struggle. Yeah. But I feel like working on this gives you like the best chance to survive it quicker. Yeah. I don't know if that's a really great way to put that, but really it's like you're going to have really low days. You're going to feel that the chaos really intensely. You're going to have that mom guilt, that shame of why can't I do everything? Why can't I show up like Becky who does all the, like I used to always compare myself to just some like mom that I had in my head, right? Like it was never even an actual person. It was just, I created this story of this perfect mom who could do all of the school parties, do all the homemade crafts and baking and work and look good and show up in a loving way, a loving, calm way for their children. And it's like, that person doesn't exist. Like that story is not true. And if you think you have somebody in your life like that, you don't know her very well because there's probably something going on internally. So it's just having all of this chaos and knowing that it's just going to be part of life. You really will set yourself up for living your healthiest, fullest life by taking care of yourself, by finding really small ways to take care of yourself. And like I said, kind of in the beginning, like in a world of that self-care and stuff, it can feel almost impossible, but it really doesn't have to be this like big thing. And I use the term self-care a lot, but I like a couple years ago, I hated that term because I was like, I don't have the money or the time for self-care. Yeah. But really it's about like nurturing of the mind, body, and soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Even sometimes it's as simple as like shutting the bathroom doors and taking a shower.
Yeah. And crying and needing to cry.
Taking a shower by myself without anybody. Like, you know, Presley's got this new thing now where she like strips her clothes off and she's like, Mommy, I'm going to take a shower with you. I'm like, okay. But no, yeah, like sometimes you have to just take that moment, whatever it is, no matter what. I think you said that so beautifully. And just giving yourself the grace in the process. Yeah. Like you're not always going to do it perfectly. You're always, you're never going to do it perfectly. And you're never going to be able to do all of the things all at the same time, all at once. And so, just really being able to separate yourself from the ideas in your head that you think are true and they're usually not. Like we're usually just up here like making all kinds of stories and assumptions about what everybody else is doing right and what we're doing wrong. And, you know, the best thing is just to focus on the things like, okay, today, this is what I know that I can do and I can accomplish. Yeah. Like, this is what I have the energy for.
And this is it.
And that's it. And draw that line and be okay with it. Really try to get okay with it, even when it feels uncomfortable. Like, even when you're sitting there and you're like, my body is telling me just to sit here and rest, but like my mind is telling me like, you could be doing this, you could be doing this, you could be doing this, and you could be doing this. Or you get online and you look and see like, oh, like this family is out doing this thing, or this mom is doing this thing with her friends. And it's like, no, you don't have to be anybody other than you. Yeah. And you have to do what you need to do to be able to take care of the highest version of you. Yeah. And so, I just think it's one thing that we all struggle with. And it's something we really need to get more honest about and just give ourselves like a big, huge hug because, you know, raising kids, working, you know, existing in the world is hard. Yeah. It can be really hard. It can be really freaking beautiful, but it can also be really hard.
And the reality is like when you're in the midst of chaos or a problem, you're not going to find the solution in the chaos or in the problem. You find the solution in the pause. Like taking that pause, taking that breath, taking that moment for yourself, then you'll find the solution. And sometimes it is taking a nap.
Yeah.
You know, it just depends on what it is that you need in that moment. But you won't find the answer that you're seeking in the chaos and the self-sabotage and in the self-pity and in the shame. You'll find it truly in the pause.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so important to make sure that you're surrounded by people that will support you and hold space for you, safe space for you in that. And not just the people who, you know, the saying, misery loves company. You know, it's so true. And so being aware of when you're in those like heavy spaces, not necessarily leaning on other people to bring you up, but leaning on people that will hold that safe space for you and maybe bring in some perspective.
Yeah.
Or make you feel a little less alone, but not just feed the angry monster that's living inside of you.
Yeah. Just having that confidence, knowing you have a support system. Like, my husband knows now, I mean, we've been together a long time. It has taken many ups and downs, but he totally understands and supports, like, when I need to recharge, when I need to be alone. And he's not offended, and he gives me that space and that time to do that. And so, I mean, I think that's really important.
Yeah. Well, because you've done the work to attain the self-awareness that you need to understand yourself, you're able to actually communicate that to him
without
in
projecting.
a more clear way. Like, you're not like projecting on him after the fact because he can't read your mind.
Right.
But
he should. We've been together like 11 years. So.
Come on. Like, really?
Step it up.
What are you doing? But no, like, being able to understand yourself enough to explain that to him and communicate that with him clearly is super powerful, not only for you, but for your relationship and for him. Because then it takes away the emotional, like, energy that he has to use to try and, like, figure out what's happening.
How to put out the fire.
With the vacuum cleaner. Like,
poor guy.
So, but yeah, you know, and it's the same thing with me, specifically with Macy.
Yeah.
You know, she's 10, she's almost 11. And so there's times where my anxiety starts getting really amped when we're in the midst of chaos. And it's so much easier for her if I'm just like, listen, I'm having a moment. I'm feeling a little, you know, I'm feeling a little tired, or I'm feeling a little anxious, or I'm feeling a little like underappreciated for all of the things that I've been doing. Even just telling her that and being like, I just need you to give me some grace, or I need you to, you know, really be aware of how you're speaking to me. You know, like whatever those little things are, it's so much easier for us if I'm just straight up with her, because then she also is attaining the permission to be straight up with me. Like, I'm feeling this way. And it opens up the conversation versus just projecting and then us shutting down.
I think, like, we should totally dissect that right there. I mean, like, telling your kids how you're truly feeling. That's not putting a burden on them. Putting a burden on them is when you're avoiding it and you're projecting in other ways, because kids know, like, they can sense when something is off and when something is wrong. And when you're able to just be like, hey, we all have bad days, and right now I'm having a day, like, I'm feeling this way. Being honest with them will make them feel better, but it will also create a space that in the future, when they are seeking a significant other, they are able to communicate effectively to create a really beautiful relationship. Yeah. And I think you giving her that gift and that communication is really a beautiful thing. Yeah. Because I did not learn to communicate with my husband until like 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality.
Again, like, Macy is almost 11 years old, and this is just like a whole new, you know, this is a new thing that's come up for us in the last couple of years. And there's still moments, because those patterns are inside of me that I do project. But then I'm able to repair it. You know, I'm able to, like, come in with the repair and be like, okay, listen, I know I did not react to this well. I'm really sorry. I'm still learning, but I'm feeling this way. And so when this thing happened or you reacted to me this way, it just like set me off.
Yeah.
And so having the humility to be able to like apologize to your kids,
because
because
it's difficult.
It's just so important. And not like you were saying, you know, being able to be honest with them is not a burden. And it's in the way of being able to do that and explain to them how you're feeling and not blaming them for it. Because when we do blame our kids for something, like, there's going to be times that they're going to do things that are going to cause us more chaos and more amped up energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when we explain it to them, like, okay, I am feeling this way because of this choice that you made, not because of this is just the way you as a person and who you are.
Yeah.
And so even like the tools and that self-awareness, being able to be grounded enough to have the perspective to like bring those conversations full circle as well, sets them up for more success, sets us up for more success. And then the more grounded tools that we attain, the easier it is for them to find tools themselves to attain.
Absolutely. And you saying that just, it makes so much sense. And it's so, so important to do that with our kids. And I kind of had a similar situation, but with Rudy, again, it was just like these last 2 weeks of all this just nonstop chaos and not like filling my cup. And you can tell when my husband is on edge because of like I said, you can feel my tension. It's very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but like you can just feel it.
Powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful. And I've always, so like me just learning to communicate. What I used to do is I kept it all inside. So I keep it inside. I was very quiet. I mean, I could make a room feel pretty icy with my quietness. And which that also causes, like, when you're just keeping all that inside, it causes a whole, like, shitstorm. It's just not good. But because of our growth and the growth he's seen in me, he said to me, he's like, I feel like you're upset with me. And that's not something he would have probably, like, openly said a couple years ago. And I go, I'm sorry. You have not done anything wrong.
Yeah.
The kids haven't done anything wrong. I am just really pissed off in this moment, like right now, because of just everything. Like not anyone in particular, and it's nobody's fault. But I'm just feeling this way. And he was like, okay. You know, it just like that like made him go,
yeah. Oh my God.
And so like communicating that with the people you live with, kids, significant other, it's really important. It's hard to do, but like once you get in that habit, it really creates a beautiful just way of communicating.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's super powerful. And that's where you went, like you would kind of go all internal.
Yeah.
I'm like word vomiting emotions everywhere. Like that was like my thing. It was like, it would all come out and I would beat it to death, which is still something that I'm working on, is like not beating it to death. Like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's get it out there. Let's be honest and let's move on, versus like keep going and keep going and vomiting all of these feelings.
Well, I think sometimes, because I understand that too, maybe it was like looking for somebody else to validate that and like the recognition, and somebody to be like, hey, yeah, I understand you're going through a hard time. And I feel like we no longer seek or need validation from other people. It's like, no, this is just how I'm feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just how I'm feeling in this moment. And it's just a moment. It's just a moment.
Yes.
Let's be honest. And yeah, like when I can do that with Macy or, you know, my friends or the, you know, my co-parents, like, you know, the girls' dads, like, or my parents, whoever it is in your life, like when you can be more honest about how you're feeling in that moment, it really makes them, you know, like you were saying with Rudy, take a deep breath, because it's like, okay, this isn't actually about me. This is just about something that she's going through. And okay, like, cool.
We can breathe.
But yeah, so yeah, and then again, it opens up space for them to also say those things and open up those things for you, or, you know, to us. And yeah, again, because we're all kind of living in this chaos together.
Yeah.
So pretending like we're not, like pretending like somebody's life is just easy peasy is just not reality.
No.
And so I think that when it comes down to it, being self-aware enough to trust yourself, to give yourself what you need, to know yourself well enough to know what it is that you do need.
Yeah.
to how to navigate your triggers and how to refill your cup so that you can show up in the world in a better way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you don't, because there's going to be times that you don't, give yourself enough compassion to be able to know that, like, okay, tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah,
like,
this isn't going to last forever.
Yeah, I don't have to beat myself up about this. I can just keep doing the things that I need to do to bring myself back to center, to bring myself back to myself, so that when I do get the opportunity to catch my breath, I can be fully present and, like, give the quality that I want to these things and to these people.
Yeah, and I love that, the quality.
Yeah, beautiful.
I will say, I was feeling super overwhelmed, and having the conversation feels better.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I feel so much better. I mean, really, like, yeah, we were both, like, I mean, if you couldn't tell, at the beginning of this video, woo! It was like, welcome to the ride. Welcome to the ride.
Yeah, being a mom and having kids and just the stress of kids and the stress of kids with toys. Tell us about that.
Oh, my gosh. So I was telling her this story right before we started recording. I was taking a shower. This is probably like a month and a half ago now. Taking a shower. One of Presley's bath toys fell on my foot on this, like, you know, little outside bone here. And the bruise that it left is really sore, and the bruise that it left is still kind of there.
A month ago?
So I was telling Kristie, as we were getting ready to start, about, like, how things are chaotic all the time. When I, like, step on my foot, a certain way, this sounds so ridiculous. People are going to be like, go to the freaking doctor, you idiot. But I'm not sure if I, like, fractured something in my foot or my toe.
Well, that's how you led the conversation. You're like, okay, before we get started, I think I fractured my foot. No, you didn't.
But I have yet to go to the doctor. I don't know what the hell happened. But yeah, the bruise is still faintly there. When I put pressure on my foot in a certain place, it hurts, like, all across the top of my foot. But I haven't had time to, like, even think about going to
That is not self-care, Paige.
I got my nails done this week, but I haven't gone to the doctor.
Priorities. That is self-care.
I mean, I'm just saying, it'll be fine, right? Like, it's going to be okay. I don't know.
If I hear about you bitch about your foot all night at this concert, I am going to whack you in the head.
I mean, if I start walking with a limp, guys, it's just because Presley's bath toy.
I don't understand
Really
how a
just-
bath toy could be that. What kind of bath toys do you
It
have?
was like, it's like a horse. It's like a big horse. I don't know. It hit just right. And I mean, yeah, like, curse words echoed through the trailer. It was bad. I don't know. So, you know, to be determined.
We'll have an update from.
So literally utter chaos. Life is such utter chaos that I haven't had time to take care of it.
No time for a doctor, only time for a nail appointment.
I mean, just saying.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it is. Life is so fun and such a mess all at the same time. So welcome to our shitstorm. We are so happy to have you.
We are.
We are so grateful for each and every one of you for being here with us. We are going to be releasing episodes the first and third Friday of every month, as long as
We can still keep talking.
as long as we can survive.
I think Rita
it.
was like, do you guys like have enough things to talk about? I'm like, yeah.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so again, thank you so much. Please reach out with any
Yes.
questions, comments, topics. We love hearing from you guys. And yeah, again, we're so grateful. We're so grateful.
Yes. Thank you for being here. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, all the things. Follow Paige at Our Healing Spaces on Instagram and Facebook. Follow me at A Strong Soul Wellness on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. All right. Well, Bye-bye.
Till next time.
Yep.